Hey there. Welcome to your personal deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're cracking open expert podcasting practices for dummies.
Right.
This guide you've shared with us
Uh-huh.
is packed with advice,
Yeah.
and we're here to help you pull out the most valuable tips.
It's really interesting actually how this book tackles like the whole podcasting journey.
Okay.
Like from picking a topic to avoiding that dreaded pod fade.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to try and like synthesize those key points
Yeah.
so you can walk away feeling like a podcasting pro.
I love that. So it starts by emphasizing passion
Yeah.
when choosing a topic.
Uh-huh.
It suggests reflecting on your hobbies or areas where you naturally give advice.
Right.
It even gives the example of a podcast on vintage typewriter repair,
Oh, wow.
attracting a global community and leading to collaborations with museums.
And that's what's so fascinating is that example perfectly illustrates the book's advice on hyper-specialization.
Okay.
So instead of covering like a broad topic like technology, you dive deep into a niche, like vintage typewriters.
Okay.
And this actually helps you uncover more content and attract a more dedicated audience.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where your passion meets a unique angle.
Right.
But isn't it hard to know if your niche is already overcrowded?
Yeah.
I mean, are there really that many people interested in vintage typewriters?
Well, that's where research comes in.
Yeah.
And the book has some interesting advice beyond the usual browsing of podcast directories.
Oh, okay.
It actually suggests using tools like Delicious to track interesting podcasts or blog posts.
Delicious. Isn't that a bit outdated?
Hmm.
What about more modern tools?
Yeah, you're right. Delicious might not be the go-to platform anymore,
Yeah.
but the principle still applies.
Oh.
Like, think of it as curating your own personal radar for emerging trends and hidden gems.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of contemporary tools that allow you to do that,
Okay.
like Feedly or Pocket.
Right.
The book even highlights the importance of setting up Google Alerts for keywords related to your niche so you can stay ahead of the curve.
That's a really good point. Staying relevant is key in the fast-paced world of podcasting.
Yeah.
Now, once you've got your topic nailed down,
Yeah,
how do you go from solo enthusiast
Yeah.
to a full-fledged podcasting team?
Well, the book walks us through building a podcast dream team.
Okay.
It breaks down various roles, from host and producer to editor and marketer,
Right.
highlighting their responsibilities and essential qualities.
Okay.
But it's not about hiring a whole crew right off the bat.
Right.
It emphasizes that, especially when starting out, one person can wear multiple hats.
So even a solo podcaster can build a team approach.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, even a one-person team needs a space to create.
Uh-huh.
What does the book say about setting up a home studio?
Right.
I'm imagining like soundproof booths, expensive equipment.
Yeah.
You know?
The book actually takes a much more grounded approach.
Okay.
It focuses on creating a flexible and functional home studio by maximizing what you have, even if it's just a corner of your living room.
Right.
And surprisingly, one of the simplest tips is also one of the most effective:
Okay.
clearing clutter.
Oh, wow.
Who knew a tidy space could drastically improve sound quality?
That's great advice.
Yeah.
It's all about being resourceful, which seems to be a recurring theme in this book.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the actual recording process.
Yeah.
I've heard of one-take podcasting,
Right.
but honestly, recording a whole episode in one go sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Is it really as efficient as the book suggests?
One-take podcasting definitely has its advantages.
Okay.
The book argues that it streamlines the recording process by encouraging you to be prepared,
Yeah.
pace yourself, and embrace those natural pauses in conversation.
But isn't there a risk of sounding less polished?
Yeah.
I tend to stumble over my words, especially when I'm trying to explain something complex.
Well, that's where the embracing imperfections part comes in. Okay. The book argues that one-take podcasting emphasizes authenticity over absolute perfection. Think of it this way.
Okay.
Would you rather listen to a perfectly edited
Yeah.
but somewhat robotic-sounding podcast,
Right.
or a slightly less polished but more engaging and genuine conversation?
You've got a point there.
Yeah.
I guess it's about finding that balance between professionalism and personality.
Right.
Speaking of personality,
Mm-hmm.
what does the book say about making your podcast stand out from the crowd?
Yeah.
You know, giving it that unique sonic identity.
The book dives deep into structuring and branding your show,
Okay.
emphasizing the importance of intros, outros, and bumpers.
Okay.
Those sonic elements that create a consistent feel.
Yeah.
It's like weaving a sonic tapestry that instantly captivates your audience and lets them know exactly what they're tuning into.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
It's about creating a sonic signature, like those iconic theme songs you hear on your favorite shows. But what if I'm not musically inclined?
Where do I even begin to find music and sound effects?
Don't worry. You don't need to be a composer to create a memorable sonic brand.
Okay.
The book provides practical tips on sourcing royalty-free music and sound effects.
So I can avoid any legal trouble while still adding that professional touch.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, it's all about connecting with listeners, right?
Right.
What does the book suggest for encouraging audience interaction and feedback?
The book is a huge advocate for actively seeking and incorporating listener feedback.
Okay.
It's about fostering a sense of community and collaboration, making your listeners feel like they're part of the journey.
Yeah.
The book suggests various strategies, from simple things like asking for feedback at the end of episodes,
Right.
to setting up dedicated email addresses,
Okay.
or even using platforms like Twitter for Q&A sessions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
It's not just about broadcasting into the void. It's about building a relationship with your audience.
exactly.
Now, for those podcasters who are starting to think bigger, the book explores the world of podcast networks.
Right.
It even compares them to record labels.
Yeah.
Is that really an accurate comparison? What are the pros and cons of joining a network?
Well, the record label analogy is an interesting one.
Okay.
The book highlights that networks can offer valuable support, promotion, and a wider reach.
Okay.
They can help you connect with a larger audience,
Yeah.
provide guidance on monetization strategies, and even offer technical assistance.
That sounds pretty appealing.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are drawbacks as well.
Right.
Isn't giving up some creative control a big deal for most podcasters?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So how does the book address that tension?
The book acknowledges that joining a network can come with certain restrictions.
Okay.
You might have to adhere to specific content guidelines, release schedules, or even advertising formats.
Okay.
The key, as the book emphasizes,
Is to carefully weigh the benefits and drawbacks and see if joining a network aligns with your overall podcasting goals.
so it's about finding the right fit,
Yeah.
a network that supports your vision
Uh-huh.
while also helping you reach a wider audience.
Exactly.
And speaking of reaching a wider audience, let's talk about the business side of podcasting.
Okay.
Can you really turn your passion into profit?
Yeah.
What does the book say about monetizing your podcast?
The book doesn't shy away from the monetization question.
Okay.
It dives into various strategies, from advertising and sponsorships to merchandise and even listener donations.
But I imagine it's not as simple as slapping ads on your podcast and watching the money roll in.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
The book stresses that successful monetization is about finding the right balance between generating revenue and maintaining authenticity. It's about knowing your audience,
Yeah.
partnering with brands that align with their interests,
Okay.
and being transparent about your monetization methods.
So it's about building trust and creating win-win situations for everyone involved.
Exactly.
But what about the dreaded phenomenon of pod fade?
Oh, yeah.
What advice does the book offer for staying motivated and preventing your podcast from fading into oblivion?
Pod fade is a real challenge for many podcasters.
Right.
But the book offers some practical strategies to combat it.
Okay.
First and foremost,
Uh-huh.
it emphasizes the importance of planning and organization.
Yeah.
Create a realistic content calendar.
Okay.
Establish a consistent recording schedule. And build in buffer time for unexpected delays.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about setting yourself up for success from the start.
Right.
But what about those times when life inevitably throws a curveball?
Yeah.
You know, those unexpected events that disrupt even the most carefully laid plan.
Right. The book acknowledges that life happens
Yeah.
and offers advice on handling those inevitable disruptions.
Okay.
Be transparent with your listeners about any changes to your schedule. And don't be afraid to take breaks when needed.
So it's about managing expectations and staying connected with your audience, even when things get a bit off track.
Exactly.
What I'm hearing is that communication is key in every aspect of podcasting.
Right.
From building a team to engaging with listeners and even navigating the challenges of monetization.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
The book consistently emphasizes the power of clear and open communication as a foundation for successful podcasting.
Okay.
It's about building relationships,
Uh-huh.
fostering trust,
Yeah.
and creating a sense of community around your podcast.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the big picture stuff, like finding your niche and building a team. But now I'm curious about the technical side.
Yeah.
What does the book recommend for optimizing our home studio setup?
Okay.
Do we really need to invest in expensive soundproofing and acoustic panels?
That's a common misconception. Yeah. The book actually emphasizes that you don't need a professional-grade studio to create high-quality audio. Remember that tip about clearing clutter to improve sound quality?
Oh, yeah.
It's all about being resourceful and maximizing what you have.
Right.
The book even suggests using everyday items like blankets or pillows to dampen echoes.
I love those practical tips.
Yeah.
It's like podcasting on a budget, which I'm sure resonates with a lot of aspiring creators.
Right.
But let's get into the nitty-gritty of equipment.
Okay.
The book mentions different types of microphones. Dynamic, condenser, USB.
Yeah.
Can you break those down for us, non-techies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's start with dynamic microphones.
Okay.
Think of them as workhorses, durable, reliable, and great for handling loud sounds.
Right.
They're often used for live performances and interviews because they can handle a lot of volume without distorting.
So if I'm planning on having guests in my home studio or recording on location, a dynamic mic would be a good choice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, condenser microphones are a bit more sensitive. They pick up subtle nuances and details in the voice, giving you a richer, warmer sound.
Oh, wow.
They're ideal for solo recordings, where you want that intimate studio quality feel.
I'm starting to see the difference.
Yeah.
So condenser mics are all about capturing those vocal subtleties, while dynamic mics are more about handling high volume situations.
Right.
What about USB microphones?
Yeah.
Those seem to be popular these days.
USB microphones are fantastic for beginners.
Okay.
They're incredibly convenient because they plug directly into your computer, eliminating the need for extra equipment, like audio interfaces.
Right.
The book even recommends specific models in various price ranges.
Wow.
So you can find the perfect mic without breaking the bank.
Okay, so we've got our microphone situation sorted.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the often dreaded process of editing. I'll admit, I'm a bit intimidated by all the technical jargon and the idea of spending hours meticulously tweaking every little sound.
The book does a great job of demystifying the editing process.
Okay.
It emphasizes that editing is about enhancing clarity and flow, not about achieving absolute perfection.
Okay.
The goal is to make your podcast sound natural and engaging.
Yeah.
Not robotic and overproduced.
That's a relief to hear.
Yeah.
So it's okay to embrace those little imperfections and let our personalities shine through.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The book encourages you to think of editing as a way to polish your podcast, not erase its character.
Right.
It covers basic techniques like trimming dead air, adjusting volume levels, and adding fades for smoother transitions.
Those sound manageable even for someone like me who's new to audio editing.
Right.
But what about those unavoidable background noises? You know, the dog barking, the traffic outside, the neighbor's lawnmower.
The book has you covered there, too. It provides practical advice on minimizing noise, both during recording and in post-production. For example, it suggests strategically positioning your microphone to reduce ambient noise.
Right.
And using noise gates to silence sounds below a certain threshold.
Okay, noise gates. Can you explain those a bit more?
Think of a noise gate as a filter that only lets sounds above a certain volume pass through.
Okay.
This means you can set it so that your voice is recorded clearly, but low-level hums or the rustle of papers are eliminated.
Right.
However, the book cautions against setting the threshold too high, as you might accidentally cut off quiet parts of your speech.
That's a really helpful explanation.
Okay.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between eliminating distractions and preserving the natural dynamics of your voice.
Right.
But let's say we've minimized the noise and edited our audio to perfection. How do we take that next step and add some extra flair to our podcast?
Okay.
I'm thinking music, sound effects, you know, that extra something special.
That's where the book gets really fun.
Yeah.
It explores the world of sound design.
Okay.
And encourages you to think of your podcast as a sonic landscape.
I love that imagery.
Think.
So it's about creating an immersive audio experience that complements our content.
Exactly.
But how do we navigate the legalities of using music and sound effects?
Yeah.
I don't want to accidentally infringe on any copyrights.
The book is very mindful of copyright issues.
Okay.
And provides guidance on sourcing royalty-free music and sound effects.
Okay.
There are plenty of online libraries and resources where you can find high-quality audio that you can use legally and without breaking the bank.
That's great to know.
Yeah.
So we can add those professional touches without worrying about legal repercussions.
Right.
But let's not forget about the technical side of actually getting our podcast out into the world. I know there's something called an RSS feed involved.
Right.
But honestly, that sounds a bit intimidating.
RSS feeds are essential for podcast distribution, but they're not as complicated as they might sound.
Okay.
The book does a great job of demystifying them.
Right.
Essentially, an RSS feed is a specially formatted text file that tells podcasting apps like Apple Podcasts and Spotify all about your show.
Yeah.
It includes your podcast title, description, episode list, artwork, and most importantly, the links to your audio files.
So it's like a digital table of contents for your podcast, providing all the essential information in a way that podcasting apps can understand.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book walks you through the process of creating this feed and submitting it to the major podcast directories, ensuring that your show is discoverable by listeners around the world.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've created our podcast, optimized our audio, and submitted our RSS feed.
Okay.
Now, how do we know if anyone is actually listening?
Right.
What does the book say about tracking our podcast's performance?
The book highlights the importance of analytics.
Okay.
And recommends services like FeedBurner or the analytics dashboards provided by your podcast hosting platform. These tools give you valuable insights into your podcast's reach and audience engagement.
So we can track downloads, see where our listeners are coming from, and even identify which episodes are the most popular.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's like having a backstage pass to your podcast's audience.
Oh, wow.
You can see which episodes are resonating, what times a day people are listening, and even their geographic location.
Wow.
This data helps you understand your audience better, refine your content, and even target your marketing efforts more effectively.
That's incredibly valuable. It's not just about vanity metrics. It's about making data-driven decisions to grow your podcast and connect with your audience more deeply.
Exactly.
Speaking of growth, let's revisit the topic of monetization.
Okay.
You touched on it earlier. But I'm curious to dive deeper into the book's recommendations for turning our podcasting passion into a sustainable source of income.
The book stresses that successful monetization is a long-term strategy.
Okay.
It's not about getting rich quick.
Right.
It's about building a loyal audience, establishing trust, and creating valuable content that attracts sponsors and advertisers.
So it's about building a strong foundation and then exploring monetization options that align with your podcast's values and your audience's interests?
Exactly.
What are some of the specific strategies the book recommends?
The book delves into various monetization models, including advertising, sponsorships, affiliate marketing, and even listener donations.
Right.
It provides practical advice on setting ad rates, negotiating contracts, and finding sponsors who resonate with your audience.
That sounds like a comprehensive approach.
Yeah.
What about the ethical considerations of monetization? How do we ensure that we're not compromising our podcast's integrity or alienating our listeners?
That's a crucial point, and the book addresses it directly.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of transparency and authenticity. Be upfront with your listeners about your monetization methods.
Right.
And choose sponsors and advertisers that align with your podcast's values.
So it's about being open and honest with our audience, creating win-win partnerships, and always prioritizing the listener experience. But let's not forget about those podcasters who are creating content for reasons beyond financial gain. What does the book have to say about podcasting for nonprofit organizations or government agencies?
The book dedicates a whole section to this.
Really?
It highlights how podcasting can be a powerful tool for communication, education, and advocacy.
Okay.
It explores different formats, from interview-based shows to storytelling podcasts and even educational series, and provides specific advice on tailoring your content to your organization's goals and target audience.
I never thought about podcasting in those contexts before, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's a way to reach a wider audience, share valuable information, and even engage with stakeholders in a more personal and accessible way.
Right.
What about the growing trend of video podcasting? Is that something the book covers as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The book acknowledges the rise of video podcasting and provides guidance on incorporating video into your podcasting workflow.
Okay, that sounds intriguing, but I'll admit I'm a bit intimidated by the technical aspects of video production.
Yeah.
Do I need to invest in fancy cameras and lighting equipment?
The book takes a very practical approach,
Okay.
just like it does with audio recording.
Uh-huh.
It emphasizes that you can start with basic equipment,
Right.
like your smartphone or webcam,
Okay.
and gradually upgrade as needed.
Yeah.
It provides tips on choosing the right camera,
Uh-huh.
setting up basic lighting, and even using free or affordable video editing software.
So it's about focusing on creating engaging content and not getting bogged down by technical complexities.
Right.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. The book seems to advocate for a very accessible and empowering approach to podcasting,
Yeah.
regardless of your technical expertise or budget.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
The book consistently reinforces the idea that anyone can create a podcast.
Okay.
It's about finding your voice,
Uh-huh.
sharing your passion,
Yeah.
and connecting with an audience that resonates with your message.
But let's face it, even with the best intentions and a solid plan in place,
Right.
podcasting can be challenging.
Uh-huh.
We've talked about the dreaded pod fade.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we simply need a break? You know, life happens,
Yeah.
and sometimes we need to step back from our creative pursuits.
Right.
What advice does the book offer for handling those situations gracefully?
The book acknowledges that breaks are essential for creative rejuvenation and long-term sustainability.
Okay.
It encourages you to plan for those breaks,
Hmm.
communicate them clearly to your audience,
Right.
and even use them as opportunities to brainstorm new ideas or experiment with different formats.
So it's not about disappearing without a trace.
Yeah.
It's about being transparent with our listeners and setting realistic expectations.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about respecting your audience's time and investment while also prioritizing your own well-being.
Right.
Remember, podcasting should be a joy, not a burden.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we feel the need to make bigger changes to our podcast? You know, maybe we want to revamp our format, bring in a new co-host,
Right.
or even shift our focus entirely.
Yeah.
How do we navigate those transitions without alienating our loyal listeners?
The book dedicates a whole chapter to podcast evolution
Oh, wow.
and provides valuable guidance on handling those pivotal moments.
Yeah.
It stresses the importance of communication and transparency.
So it's about being upfront with our audience,
Right.
explaining the rationale behind our decisions,
Yeah.
and inviting them to be part of the journey.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think of your listeners as collaborators.
Uh-huh.
Explain your vision,
Yeah.
solicit their feedback,
Okay.
and acknowledge their role in shaping your podcast's evolution.
That's a really empowering approach.
Right.
It transforms those potentially disruptive transitions into opportunities for growth and connection.
Right.
What I'm hearing throughout this entire deep dive is that successful podcasting hinges on building strong relationships.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's about nurturing those relationships with your co-hosts, your team, your sponsors, and most importantly, your listeners.
Okay.
When you approach podcasting with that mindset,
Yeah.
the technical aspects become secondary.
Right.
It's all about fostering community and sharing your passion with the world.
That's a beautiful sentiment. And I think it perfectly encapsulates the spirit of this book.
Yeah.
It's not just a technical manual. It's a guide to building a thriving and engaging podcasting community.
Right.
But let's not forget about the practical side of things.
Okay.
We've talked about basic equipment.
Yeah.
But what about those podcasters who are ready to level up their setup?
Uh-huh.
What advice does the book offer for choosing more advanced equipment?
The book doesn't shy away from the gear talk.
Okay.
It provides detailed information on microphones, mixers, headphones, recording software,
Uh-huh.
and even specialized equipment for video podcasting.
Okay, so it's a comprehensive resource for those who are ready to invest in their podcasting journey.
Yeah.
But I imagine it can be overwhelming to navigate all those options.
Right.
How does the book help us make informed decisions without breaking the bank?
The book emphasizes the importance of choosing equipment that aligns with your specific needs,
Uh-huh.
your budget, and your podcasting goals.
Okay.
It provides clear explanations of the different options, their pros and cons,
Uh-huh.
and even specific recommendations in various price ranges.
Okay.
It also stresses the importance of researching reviews and comparing different models before making a purchase.
So it's about doing our homework, being strategic with our investments, and not getting caught up in the hype of the latest and greatest gadgets.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book encourages you to focus on the quality of your content and the strength of your message, rather than relying on expensive equipment to compensate for a lack of substance.
Yeah.
Remember, the most important tool in your podcasting arsenal is your voice, your passion, and your ability to connect with an audience.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
But even with the best equipment and a clear vision,
Uh-huh.
the technical side of podcasting can still be a bit daunting.
Right.
What advice does the book offer for troubleshooting common technical issues?
The book dedicates an entire chapter to troubleshooting
Oh, wow.
and provides practical solutions to common problems, from audio glitches and recording errors to file format issues and podcasting app compatibility. It even includes a glossary of technical terms to help you navigate the often confusing world of podcasting jargon.
That's incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
It's like having a technical support team right at your fingertips.
Exactly.
But let's step back from the technicalities for a moment
Okay.
and revisit the heart of podcasting. The listeners.
Yeah.
We've talked about the importance of feedback and engagement.
Yeah.
But what about those who are simply passionate about listening to podcasts?
Right.
What role do they play in the podcasting ecosystem?
The book beautifully addresses the often overlooked role of the listener.
Okay.
It celebrates their dedication, their curiosity,
Yeah.
and their willingness to invest their time and attention in the podcasts they love.
So it's not just a one-way street.
Right.
Listeners are active participants in the podcasting experience, even if they're not creating their own shows.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book encourages listeners to go beyond simply hitting that subscribe button.
Right.
It urges them to leave reviews, share their favorite episodes on social media,
Okay.
and even reach out to podcasters directly to express their appreciation or offer suggestions.
So it's about amplifying the voices of the podcasters you appreciate and contributing to the growth of the podcasting community.
Right.
But what about those who are hesitant to engage publicly?
Yeah.
Are there other ways listeners can contribute without feeling like they have to be social media mavens?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The book encourages listeners to reach out to podcasters directly, either through email or social media,
Okay.
to share their thoughts, ask questions,
Yeah.
or simply express their appreciation.
Right.
It emphasizes that those personal connections can be incredibly meaningful for both the listener and the podcaster.
That's a lovely thought.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of shared experience and reminds us that podcasting at its core is about human connection.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up our deep dive into expert podcasting practices for dummies, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Something to ponder as they embark on their own podcasting adventures.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What if, instead of viewing podcasting as a solitary pursuit, you approached it as a collaborative art form?
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about inviting your listeners to be active participants in the creative process.
Right.
Not just passive consumers.
Exactly.
Oh.
What if you incorporated listener feedback into your episodes, solicited their ideas for future topics,
Yeah.
or even invited them to co-create segments?
Okay.
Imagine the richness and diversity of perspectives that would emerge from such a collaborative approach.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
It would transform the podcasting experience into a dynamic exchange of ideas, a collective journey of discovery.
Exactly.
And it would truly embody the spirit of community and connection that lies at the heart of podcasting.
Right.
So, dear listeners, as you embark on your own podcasting adventures, remember to embrace the power of collaboration.
Invite your audience to be part of the creative process.
Okay.
You might be surprised by the magic that unfolds.
You never know.
What a fantastic note to end on.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
We've explored the world of podcasting from every angle, from finding your voice to building a community and even turning your passion into a sustainable endeavor.
It's amazing what this book covers.
It is.
It's very thorough
Yeah.
and comprehensive.
But remember,
Yeah.
this is just the beginning of your podcasting journey. The real magic happens when you take these insights,
Right.
apply them to your unique vision,
Yeah.
and start creating.
Exactly.
So go forth and podcast.
Yeah.
The world is waiting to hear your voice.
I can't wait to hear what you come up with.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the nitty-gritty of home studios to the nuances of podcast networks.
Yeah.
But there's one more area I'm really curious about.
Okay.
Mobile podcasting.
Right.
The book highlights this as a growing trend. And I can see the appeal.
Yeah.
Imagine ditching the confines of a studio and recording on the go.
Right.
Interviews at events, conversations in coffee shops, maybe even nature soundscapes for a meditation podcast.
The book really emphasizes the versatility of mobile podcasting.
Okay.
It allows you to capture those spontaneous moments of inspiration and connect with people in dynamic environments.
Yeah.
But it's not just about grabbing your phone and hitting record.
Right.
The book stresses the importance of planning even for mobile recordings.
So scouting locations, packing extra batteries, having a backup plan in case of technical difficulties.
Exactly.
Okay.
You need to think about background noise.
Yeah.
Potential distractions.
Right.
And ensuring you have adequate lighting if you're recording video.
Okay.
The book provides practical tips for handling these unique challenges, like using lavalier microphones for clear audio in noisy environments,
Okay.
or investing in a portable windscreen to minimize wind interference. Those are really helpful tips.
Yeah.
I can see how mobile podcasting can be both exciting and challenging.
Right.
But let's say we've embraced those challenges and captured some great audio on the go. What does the book recommend for editing those mobile recordings to make them sound polished and professional?
The book dives into specific editing techniques for mobile recordings.
Oh?
It explains how to minimize background noise using software tools like noise reduction filters and audio restoration plugins.
Wow.
It even provides tips on adjusting audio levels to compensate for variations in recording environments.
So even if our interview was recorded in a bustling cafe or on a windy rooftop, we can still salvage the audio and make it sound presentable.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's all about being resourceful and knowing the right techniques. The book emphasizes that with a little bit of effort, you can achieve professional-sounding results even when recording in less than ideal conditions.
That's reassuring. It makes mobile podcasting seem much more accessible, knowing that we can clean up our audio and create high-quality content regardless of where it was recorded.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about those who are passionate about listening to podcasts, but might not be ready to start their own.
Yeah.
What does the book have to say about listener engagement and the role listeners play in the podcasting world?
The book celebrates the listener
Okay.
and highlights how their active participation contributes to the vibrancy of the podcasting community.
So it's about going beyond passive listening and becoming an advocate for the podcasts you love.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book encourages listeners to leave thoughtful reviews on platforms like Apple Podcasts, as those reviews can significantly impact a podcast's visibility and attract new listeners.
Right.
It also highlights the power of word-of-mouth marketing and encourages listeners to share their favorite episodes with their networks.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about amplifying the voices of the podcasters you appreciate and contributing to the growth of the podcasting community.
Right.
But what about those who are hesitant to engage publicly?
Yeah.
Are there other ways listeners can contribute without feeling like they have to be social media mavens?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The book encourages listeners to reach out to podcasters directly, either through email or social media,
Okay.
to share their thoughts, ask questions,
Right.
or simply express their appreciation.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that those personal connections can be incredibly meaningful for both the listener and the podcaster.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up our deep dive into expert podcasting practices for dummies, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Something to ponder as they embark on their own podcasting adventures.
I like it.
What if, instead of viewing podcasting as a solitary pursuit, you approached it as a collaborative art form? So it's about inviting your listeners to be active participants in the creative process,
Yeah.
not just passive consumers.
Exactly. What if you incorporated listener feedback into your episodes,
Okay.
solicited their ideas for future topics, or even invited them to co-create segments?
Wow.
Imagine the richness and diversity of perspectives that would emerge from such a collaborative approach.
That's a great point.
And it would truly embody the spirit of community and connection that lies at the heart of podcasting.
Yeah.
So, dear listeners, as you embark on your own podcasting adventures, remember to embrace the power of collaboration.
Okay.
Invite your audience to be part of the creative process.
Right.
You might be surprised by the magic that unfolds.
I love that.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
Yes.
We've explored the world of podcasting from every angle. Finding your voice, building a community, and even turning your passion into a sustainable endeavor.
This book is a great resource for anyone, really, at any stage of their podcasting journey.
It is.
Whether you're just starting out
Yeah.
or you're a seasoned pro.
Right.
There's
right.
always something new to learn.
But remember, this is just the beginning of your podcasting journey.
That's right.
The real magic happens when you take these insights,
Yeah.
apply them to your unique vision, and start creating.
And don't be afraid to experiment and have fun along the way.
That's right.
Podcasting is a journey of discovery,
Yeah.
both for you as a creator and for your listeners.
So go forth and podcast.
Yeah.
The world is waiting to hear your voice.
I can't wait to hear what you come up with.